You already think you know the answer. Sharks in Florida, grizzlies in Alaska, rattlesnakes in the desert Southwest. The animals that show up in every nightmare documentary, the ones with teeth, the ones that make headlines. You're wrong about almost all of it. Because in 2018, the CDC quietly published a state-by-state breakdown of which animals actually killed the most people across America. And the results overturned almost everything we assume about danger in this country. The deadliest animal in most states isn't a predator at all. It's something you've shared a road with, a porch with, sometimes a bed with. This is the real ranking. And it's going to change how you think about the animal kingdom in your own backyard. Let's start with the animal that wins more states than anything else on this list. The deer. Across a huge swath of the country, the entire Midwest, much of the Northeast, the Upper South, white-tailed deer are the deadliest animal a resident will encounter. Not through attack, but through vehicle collisions. Nationally, deer are tied to somewhere between 120 and 200 human deaths every single year, mostly from cars striking deer at speed or swerving to avoid them and losing control instead. In states like Pennsylvania, which records well over 100,000 deer vehicle collisions annually, and Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio, deer don't just lead the rankings, they dominate them by a margin that makes every other animal in the state look statistically irrelevant. The deer never has to be aggressive. It just has to exist in large enough numbers, in exactly the places we built our highways through. Then there's the second animal that quietly dominates state after state. One most people would never guess. The dog. In Alaska specifically, dogs are recorded as the deadliest animal in the state, with one of the highest dog attack fatality rates in the country, driven partly by the prevalence of working sled dogs and dog teams in more remote and rural communities. Alabama's CDC data lists dog attacks as the leading cause of animal-related death as well. Nationally, dogs are tied to somewhere between 30 and 50 human deaths annually, and that number has been climbing in recent years, even as media attention stays fixed on far rarer wild animal attacks. This is the pattern that repeats across the entire list, over and over. The animal we let into our homes outranks the animal we're taught to fear in the wild. Now to the animal nobody expects, sitting at or near the top of the entire national ranking. Insects. Stinging insects, bees, wasps, and hornets, are responsible for roughly 60 to 100 deaths nationally each year, almost entirely through severe allergic reactions, anaphylaxis that can kill within minutes without immediate treatment. In multiple southern and Gulf Coast states, including Texas, stinging insects rank among the very deadliest categories the CDC tracks. Not because any individual sting is dangerous, but because the sheer number of stings nationwide, combined with how common severe allergies are, adds up to a death toll most large predators can't match in an entire decade. You don't need size, you don't need teeth. You just need millions of encounters a year and a small percentage of bodies that react catastrophically. Now we get to the animals people actually picture when they hear deadliest. And where they show up is far more limited than the popular imagination suggests. In Florida, the alligator earns its reputation honestly. With well over 1 million alligators statewide and dense human development pressed right up against wetland habitat, Florida has recorded more total animal-related fatalities since 1970 than any other state in the country. And alligators are central to that number, alongside snake bites and the occasional shark attack along its extensive coastline. In California, the deadliest animal isn't the mountain lion or the great white shark people associate with the state's wilderness and coastline. It's the southern Pacific rattlesnake. The species rarely bites, but venomous snake bites across the state add up to a real recurring toll. And California sees roughly 200 reported rattlesnake bites a year, a pattern echoed by western diamondback rattlesnakes, a state over in Texas, where snake bites account for several fatalities most years despite widespread anti-venom access. In Texas specifically, which leads the nation in total recorded animal-related deaths, alligators in the Gulf wetlands, venomous snake bites in the western half of the state, and a remarkably high number of stinging insect encounters combine to produce the most dangerous overall wildlife profile of any state in America. In the mountain and northern states, Colorado, Wyoming, Maine, and notably Alaska's interior, the moose claims a category almost nobody outside those regions thinks about: vehicle collisions with an animal that can weigh over 700 kilograms and stands at almost exactly windshield height. A moose vehicle collision doesn't behave like hitting a deer. The animal's body mass is positioned to come through the windshield directly into the passenger compartment, and recorded fatality rates from moose collisions, while lower in raw numbers than deer, carry some of the highest per incident death rates of any wildlife-related crash type in the country. A handful of states have genuinely unusual entries that break the national pattern entirely. Arizona's deadliest animal by some tallies isn't even its famous rattlesnakes. It's recorded in certain breakdowns against dog attacks as well, with venomous reptile bites a close secondary threat, led by the western diamondback. And tucked into that same desert ecosystem is the Arizona bark scorpion, the most venomous scorpion species in the country, responsible for serious medical incidents across the Southwest, even though fatalities specifically have become rare since anti-venom became widely available. Massachusetts and several New England states list the American black bear as their top entry, not because attacks are common, since fatal bear encounters in the region are exceptionally rare, but because among an otherwise sparse field of dangerous wildlife, the black bear is simply the largest, most capable animal residents are likely to cross paths with. And in a scattering of states with minimal wildlife death data altogether, Delaware among them. The CDC's own report notes that the recorded death toll is so low that determining a single deadliest animal becomes more a matter of which rare incident happened to occur, rather than any consistent yearly threat. Here's the pattern sitting underneath every single one of these state-by-state results, and it's the part that should genuinely reframe how you think about danger in this country. The animals that dominate the nightmare documentary version of dangerous wildlife, sharks, big cats, bears, venomous snakes in the volumes you'd expect, show up on this list far less often and in far smaller numbers than the animals we've stopped being afraid of entirely. Deer, dogs, insects, animals woven so completely into daily American life that we've collectively decided they don't belong in the same conversation as a grizzly or a great white. The CDC's own analysis found that roughly 20% of states didn't even have enough animal death data to be meaningfully included. A reminder that, across the country as a whole, animal-related deaths are a genuinely small fraction of overall mortality. But within that small number, the actual ranking inverts almost everything pop culture has trained you to expect. The deadliest animal in your state was never the one in the nature documentary. Nah, it was almost certainly the one already living in your house, grazing at the edge of your highway, or building a hive somewhere in your own backyard.